Today we're going to be talking about the small stove and getting the flame correct for the temperature with the choke here that I've made. It's simply aluminum foil with some wiring that I can move up and down to open the choke and close the choke, as you see, right? The full open allows more air to flow down the tube, and the fully closed position allows less air for a richer fuel system. So I'm going to close off the back here, and in the front, you can't see it, but there's these two ports that I've recently closed up to allow the heat to accumulate within the stove versus escape through the ports themselves. They were exhaust ports, and once I close the door here, the exhaust ports are needed. However, I'm going to always have this door open. So I've got these bricks, and what I'm going to do is close off the inlet port here with one brick to help the heat build up inside the stove and retain inside, and reducing heat escapage and everything, so that I can go ahead and forge at a higher temperature, since this is a single burner stove. I've got tongs, and these tongs I will use as the temperature measurement to go in and see how absurdly hot can I get this tong, right? I'll be making these. This will be my first project, is to make these tongs, this set in particular. So I'm going to forge out the handle. I already did a little bit of work, just kind of goofing around. The metal wasn't soft enough to really do anything substantial, so I need to go get a lighter. While I'm doing that, I'd like to cut to the side and say thank you for watching the video first off. But if you like the content that I make, whether it's this particular video or other videos, hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up and drop a comment. Tell me what you liked. Okay. So what I can do is I can see inside. It's sputtering. Whoop. And now it's out. Ooh, did you see that? It went out. I think it's too much fuel. Oh, it backtracked. So I can see the red flame. So one of the big mistakes that I was making right here that I didn't realize until much later is this is much like a carbureted engine, where when the engine is not at an operating temperature and cold, I need to have that choke all the way open to allow as much air to come through. Almost the opposite of a carbureted engine, now that I think about it. However, it needed more oxygen to fire that flame inside until there was enough heat inside to do it, to do all the ignition. So here's the heat. You can see how glowing red hot it is. Actually, I'm turning this off right now in the video. The choke is set at about a quarter closed, which seemed to be the proper amount for the amount of propane I was slamming through the hose. You can't see it, it's off camera. However, I have a very simple 30 PSIG regulator with no flow indicator gauge. So I don't know how much I have going on. I was about a quarter turn shy of fully open on the regulator. So do the math, and I have a rough, accurate amount, right? This is a video of inside when the stove was still getting warm. I've got the metal sitting in there. You'll notice that I have a brick sitting on the bottom of the stove. And on the edge of the brick right there, you can see it starting to get really hot. It created this vortex between the brick and the wall. And what I needed to do, and I'll do here in a little bit later, is move that brick all the way up against the wall, restricting that vortex to accumulate heat in a much tighter area. However, all in all, with the two ports closed and only this small little gap, I was very impressed at the amount of heat. Okay, I'm going to turn this down and actually turn it all the way off. So let's go off on the regulator and then close on the tank itself. Now inside the stove is still glowing red hot, amazing heat inside. And I only put this in here for a little bit because I was working it. So I'll go ahead and pull this out. These are my tongs for now, so I have to be very careful. I'm working the very end You can see it is nice and hot, and I've started to round. I squeezed in the oblong, and then I started to round it off, and then I'll work my way up the shank here. But this is working so far, really, really good. The temperature gets nice and hot so that I can really mold this around. And in fact, it gets so hot that I want to take off this hose. Give you a good example here. I'll actually go to the other side of the stand, and you'll see the fact that I'm actually doing this in sandals. Don't mind that. There's a whole bunch in here, right? So one thing I found out already is I need to make sure that my strike is true to the face of the anvil. And so I found out what the proper wrist height is in order to make that happen. And I simply just let the hammer fall. I don't strike hard. Just let the hammer do the work. I don't know how loud this is in the microphone, but this is good. All right, let's straighten this out. This is gorgeous. Look at that. Looks good, huh? And that's my forge for today. One thing that I'd like to point out is I never did get dragon's breath, and I think that I just need an increase in fuel supply, just turning the knob to the maximum. And if I can get a dragon's breath with the single burner to come out, I can then choke it down so that all of the fuel is being spent within the stove itself, increasing the temperature to the maximum amount possible with the single burner, which then might actually get me to temperatures to be able to forge weld. I'm curious right now if I can get it up to a temperature so that the metal will then lose its magnetism, which will then give me the means to have a successful quench of the metal. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, give me a like, give me a share, give me a thumbs up, subscribe.